Postgame Show on the Padres Radio Network. Coming up, we'll deliver a full recap of today's game, including highlights from the biggest moments. Listen to Craig Stammen's postgame comments. Plus, we'll bring you today's play of the game. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
Welcome into our Jamul Casino Resort Padres postgame show here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our Padres Radio Network studios as the Padres fall in the third game of this four-game series. Final score, the Braves 7 and the Padres 6. A lot to do as always. We'll head back to Atlanta, hear from Craig Stammen. We have a full game recap for you, all the radio highlights, full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, and much, much more. As always, our post-game coverage brought to you by Jamul Casino Resort, a player with a top 100 spa, an epic rooftop pool, and Lux Hotel Suites. Jamul Casino Resort is the mini vacay you need. The player's place. Well, let's begin with this. I'm going to break this game down, not even into two halves, because it wasn't two halves. It was essentially a game that was very much one way for 7.5 innings, and a game that was a completely different thing for 2.5 innings. And I'm going to sum it up in the runs and hits in the 7.5 innings and then the two final half innings in this game. The first 7.5 innings of this game combined between these two teams, 2 runs on 11 hits. The final 2 half innings of this game, the bottom half of the 8th inning and the top of the 9th, 11 runs on 11 hits combined. This game was one thing for 7.5 innings, and then quite frankly, it sort of went off the rails and went crazy in the final 2 half innings. But the problem for the Padres here tonight is that both versions of this game, both the first part of it and then the second part of it, they were equally differently frustrating. And the Padres ultimately lose this game 7-6. Let's talk about a few different aspects of this game. First off, it was incredible for a while in this game that there was only one combined run. When you consider Michael King walks the first 3 batters he faces of this game. Now, King, I thought, deserves a lot of credit tonight, because when you think about how much trouble he was in all night long, it was a minor miracle that Michael King got through 6 innings in this game and gave you a quality start. If I would have told you when the bases were loaded with nobody out in the first inning and you saw the kinds of misses Michael King was making in the first inning, if I would have told you that King was going to get through 6 and give up a run in this game, and if I would have told you how much base traffic he would deal with, you would have said, no way. No way. But Michael King, to his credit, battled through 6 innings in this game. The problem was Padres also had opportunities against Martin Perez. They didn't do much against the early portion of the Brave bullpen. They finally get the Merrill home run to make it a 1-1 game. And then it's still a 1-1 game going to the bottom half of the 8th inning. And I thought distinctly in the bottom half of the 8th inning, this was a situation, this was a scenario, this was a half inning where, and this is not the first time this has happened over the course of the last month or so, this was a spot where you really felt the injuries to this Padres bullpen. Why do I say that? Well, Adrian Morejon had pitched the 7th inning, got out of a big jam. You still got a tie game going to the 8th inning. And when this Padres bullpen is at full strength, these are innings that a Jason Adam picks up, that a Jeremiah Estrada picks up, that even a David Morgan at times will pick up. Certainly Adam and Estrada, but instead you're finding different guys to put in there, and quite frankly, those guys are not as consistent as the Adams and Estradas of the world. And Wandy Peralta comes in the 8th inning, really, really rough appearance. Randy Vasquez comes in after that. He didn't do a whole lot better. And an inning that was not going well when you had the RBI double by Jarvis, the RBI double by Hicklin. It's a 3-1 game. The inning unraveled. And it unraveled to a point where the Braves end up scoring 6 runs on 7 hits to make it 7-1. Now, admittedly, when it's 7-1, I don't blame you sitting there thinking, well, is what it is. If it was 4-1 or 5-1 or 6-1 or 7-1, you're creating an awfully tall mountain for your offense to climb against a really good Brave bullpen in the 9th inning. But then the Padres in the 9th inning, they're all over Medeiros. They get the misplay by Harris. Not really a misplay, but I thought a bad decision by Harris in the 9th inning that leads to the 2-run triple. And all of a sudden, you've got a 3-run deficit. All of a sudden, the Braves are doing something they didn't want to do, and that was go to their closer, Raisel Iglesias. Iglesias comes in, Rengifo hits the home run, and you've got a 1-run game. And then Iglesias, who's an all-star closer, does what an all-star closer tends to do, and bears down and ends up getting through it and securing a save and a 7-6 win. And that sort of is what it is. Your offense, I mean, they scored 5 runs in the 9th inning, but because the bottom half of the 8th inning unraveled in the manner it did, it made it too tall a mountain to climb. So, look, very frustrating, I think, at a number of different levels. One, the fact that you ended up getting a really nice outing from King. Yeah, he had to deal with trouble all night long. This was not the best version of Michael King, but sort of miraculously, he got through 6 innings in this game. You couldn't find a way to get to what I thought was a shaky Martin Perez, get some offense off him. Then you get the home run by Merrill to tie the game. You had the bases loaded in the 7th inning. Later in that inning, couldn't get a run in. And then the bottom half of the 8th inning, what did we learn? We learned that sometimes when an inning unravels like that, it can make the difference. If that inning ends up being a little bit less costly and the Padres do something like what they did offensively in the top of the 9th inning, maybe the Padres win this game. And yeah, the offense, finally showed up in the 9th inning, but it wasn't enough because the 8th inning got so far away from the Padres between the work of Peralta and Vasquez. So again, you break this game down into the first 7.5 innings where King battles through, you're not scoring, but you do end up tying the game. And then you break down the final 2 half innings where, unfortunately, that bottom of the 8th unraveled to the point where even though your offense did what they had to do, really, in the top of the 9th inning, they gave it all they could almost. They could not find a way to ultimately tie this game against, a really great closer in Raisel Iglesias. And again, I think the bigger picture thing, 2 things really. Number one, you were hoping the Padres offense tonight, again, I'm going to remove the 9th inning for a second. You were hoping tonight they would show you something like what they did the night before when it was so encouraging, just like it was so encouraging in Kansas City on Sunday. And then on Monday, the offense didn't do a whole lot. We've talked about it a ton. The Padres need to find consistency really at all levels right now. They need to hit more consistently. They need more consistent starting pitching, which, by the way, in this series, they've actually had. And unfortunately, they've lost 2 or 3 in the series so far. But also, I thought it magnified the way your bullpen is much shorter than it once was. I mean, that 8th inning, that's an inning that typically an Adam or an Estrada takes. It is. And you don't have those guys, so instead you're trying to fill spots. They went to Wandy in that spot. Could you have gone to somebody else? Could you have gone to Vasquez straight away? Could you have gone to another arm in that bullpen? Of course. But you know what? Wandy's had a good year, and somebody's got to pitch that spot in a tie game. Unfortunately, he comes in, can't get it done. Vasquez also isn't a whole lot better after that, and if you had your usual bullpen options, I don't know that the inning gets away like that. I can almost guarantee it doesn't get away like it did. And despite your offense doing so many good things in the top of the 9th inning, you were down by so much that did not end up being a situation where you could ultimately come back to tie the game. So, look, you can slice it any way you want. Frustrating loss at a time of year where the Padres cannot really afford to be having frustrating losses, many of which they've had on this road trip, no doubt. Padres now 2-4 on the trip. And, by the way, they got to face Chris Sale tomorrow. So we'll talk more about that as we roll along. Padres dropped to 50-52 on the season, and they will aim for a series split in Atlanta tomorrow. When we come back, we'll have a full game recap, all the radio highlights for you. Hear from Craig Stammen coming up a little bit later as well. Final score again, Braves 7, Padres 6. Our postgame coverage continues after this on the Padres Radio Network.
When it's the bottom
Our Jamul Casino Resort Padres postgame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our Padres Radio Network studios as we wrap this one up. Final score here today, Padres fall 7-6 to the Atlanta Braves. We'll head back to Atlanta, hear from Craig Stammen coming up in just a little bit. Right now, let's recap this one from the very start to the very finish.
Which moments determine the outcome of today's game? We'll paint you a picture with our game highlights on the Padres Radio Network.
Martin Perez on the mound for Atlanta tonight. The former Padre left-hander. He worked around a two-out walk in a scoreless top of the first inning. In the bottom half, Michael King took the mound, and, well, he did not have any command. He walked the first three batters of the game. Michael Harris, the second, dug in.
2-2. The pitch. Harris swings, hits it on the ground towards first base, right over the bag. France has it. He'll step on the bag. That's all they'll get. Baldwin crosses the plate. Harris is out, and an RBI groundout gives Atlanta a 1-0 lead here in the first.
Now, if you listen to our postgame enough, you know it's not very often that I play the highlight of an RBI groundout in the first inning, but the reason I did it, because you should remember that single run, because it's all we had for a while. King really bared down after that. He struck out two in a row to end the inning. Now, King dealt with trouble all night long. He stranded runners on first and third in the second. He stranded a runner on second in the third. He worked around two hits in the fourth inning. He worked around a two-out single in the fifth inning. He put together a 1-2-3 sixth inning. Somehow, some way, amidst all that traffic, King gave up one run in 6 innings, 104 pitches. Now, on the other side of things, Padres had plenty of chances. Perez walked 2 in the second. He walked another in the third. He worked around a leadoff single in the fourth inning. Dylan Dodd pitched a scoreless fifth inning. Didier Fuentes pitched a scoreless sixth inning. So, after all that, to recap, the Braves still led just 1-0 from the Harris groundout back in the first inning as we went to the seventh. Braves up 1-0. Fuentes took the mound for his second inning of work. It was the Padres' Jackson Merrill who led off.
0-2. Merrill in the air to center field and deep. Harris going back to watch. This one is gonna go into the fountain in center field. Jackson Merrill, a long home run to tie the game. He's got the only 2 Padre hits of the night, but that's good enough right now. It's 1-1 in the seventh.
449 feet on the home run for Merrill. 4 home runs in his last 4 games, a big one, and the game was tied at 1. Padres would load the bases against Fuentes later in that inning, but Fuentes got out of it. We were still tied at 1. Adrian Morjon came on for the bottom half of the 7th inning. He got in trouble. Runners on first and third with 2 men away, but Morjon got a big strikeout of Austin Riley to end the inning. Still a 1-1 game. Dylan Lee pitched a 1-2-3 top of the 8th inning out of the Atlanta pen. Wandy Peralta entered for the bottom half of the inning. Again, still a tie game at 1. He gave up a 1-out single to Mauricio Dubon. Then Jim Jarvis, a Claremont High School alum, dug in.
And here's a line drive looped into right field, down a fair ball. Going to roll all the way into the corner. Dubon is at third. He's being waved. Tatis digs it out, sends it in. He will score. RBI double Jim Jarvis, who continues to hit against his hometown team. The Braves have scored for the first time since the first inning, and they lead 2-1 here in the 8th.
Braves were not done. Brewer Hicklin was next.
And Hicklin rips it down the left field line. They're going to add on. Jarvis rounding third. He'll score easily. Sheets sends it in. How about back-to-back RBI doubles? Jim Jarvis, now Brewer Hicklin. It's 3-1 in the 8th.
Peralta then walked Drake Baldwin to put 2 on base. Padres went to Randy Vasquez. He didn't do a whole lot better. Ozzie Albies hit an RBI single. Matt Olson did the same. Austin Riley hit a 2-out RBI single. Dominic Smith pinch hit, and he hit an RBI single. 6 runs on 7 hits in the 8th inning for Atlanta. 4 of the runs charged to Peralta, 2 charged to Randy Vasquez. So the Padres trailed 7-1, going to the 9th inning. But, oh boy, the Padres would not go quietly. Victor Madero started the inning on the mound. He walked Xander Bogaerts with 1 out. Jake Cronenworth doubled. That brought up Gavin Sheets, who had pinch hit earlier.
First pitch, Gavin bangs it on the ground left side. That will go into left field and a base hit. Bogaerts scores. Cronenworth stops at third. And Gavin Sheets an RBI single. It is 7-2.
All right, so the Padres making a little noise. That got things to the top of the lineup, and Fernando Tatis Jr.
And Tatis lines it into center field. Harris charging in, slides forward, can't make the catch. It gets behind him. Going to roll all the way to the warning track. Cronenworth and Sheets both score. Tatis feet first into third. It's a 2-run triple. 7-4 here in the ninth, and still only one out.
Padres making a little bit more noise. That forced Braves manager Walt Weiss to use his closer, Raisel Iglesias. First up against Iglesias, Luis Rengifo.
Rengifo swings, hits it in the air, deep to right field. Hicklin is going back. This one is gone. A home run. Luis Rengifo over the brick wall in right. A 2-run homer, and now a 1-run game in the ninth inning as Rengifo hits his first home run as a Padre.
So the Padres trailed 7-1 when the inning began. They now trailed 7-6, 5 runs in. Manny Machado coming up. Machado struck out for out number 2. Ty France, the red-hot Ty France, who has come up with so many big hits this season, dug in representing the tying run with the Padres down to their final out.
France takes on the outside corner, strike 3 called. The ball game is over. The Braves get 6 in the 8th and then hang on for dear life as the Padres get 5 in the 9th. Final score here tonight, Atlanta 7, San Diego 6, and what a finish at Truist Park in Atlanta.
Yeah, what a finish indeed, and Jesse nailed it. Braves hanging on for dear life for this win. The Padres scoring 5 runs in the top of the 9th inning, but not enough. In the final 2 half innings of this game, bottom of the 8th and the top of the 9th, the two teams combined for 11 runs on 11 hits in the final 2 half innings. Man, oh man, what a wild finish as the Padres do fall 7-6. Padres drop to 50-52. Braves improved to 59-42. Final totals here tonight for the Padres: 6 runs, 8 hits, no errors. For Atlanta, 7 runs, 14 hits, and no errors. Padres went 3 for 9 with runners in scoring position. The Braves went 6 for 19 with RISP. Winning pitcher here tonight, Dylan Lee, who improves to 5-0. The losing pitcher, Wandy Peralta, drops to 1-2, and the save goes to the All-Star Raisel Iglesias, who picks up his 20th save of this season. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Craig Stammen. Again, the Padres fall here tonight by a final score of 7-6. We return with more post-game coverage after this.
We'll be right back.
Our Jamul Casino Resort Padres postgame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the Padres Radio Network studios on this Wednesday night. Padres play an early game tomorrow. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Padres fall here tonight by a final score of 7-6. Again, if you're just joining us, it really was a tale of two very different games. Not halves, but parts of the game, I guess you could say. First 7.5 innings of this game, these two teams combined for 2 runs on 11 hits. The final 2 half innings of the game, bottom of the 8th and the top of the 9th, they combined for 11 runs on 11 hits. And essentially, we had a 1-1 game going to the bottom half of the 8th inning. The Braves scored 6. Padres then scored 5 in the top of the 9th inning, and they do end up losing by a run, 7-6. Michael King, sort of amazingly, considering he didn't have his best stuff in this game, and he dealt with so much trouble throughout 6 innings, but got through 6, only gave up 1 run through 104 pitches. He found a way through it, as Michael so typically tends to do, even on days where he doesn't have his best stuff. Wandy Peralta, Randy Vasquez really faltering in the bottom of the 8th inning. Padres did about all they could to make it really, really interesting in the 9th inning, but they come up just short as they fall by a single run. Let's go back to Truist Park in Atlanta and hear some postgame reaction from Craig Stammen.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres skipper Craig Stammen. Served up by Sinley Food. If you've had better chicken, you must be a rooster.
2 different games from their offense. They didn't want one game.
Right.
First day looked familiar, and then how do you walk away from that one?
Yeah, I think we had Perez a little bit on the ropes the way he was not, commanding the zone the way he wanted to, but he was able to make some good pitches. We're really able to get any hits off of him. We had big people on base, but unable to come through in the big moment there with him. And then they've got a really good bullpen. And we battled them. They kind of went down the line with their guys, and Jackson had a big home run to tie it up, gave us a chance, and we just had one bad inning on the mound in the 8th that just didn't go our way. Wandy wasn't very sharp, and then a bunch of unlucky hits against Randy is what I'll say there.
What did you think of Michael today?
I thought he did not have much at the beginning. Walked the first 3 batters of the game, and then just gritted his teeth and gutted one out and gave us 6 innings. It was a pretty impressive outing, honestly. Based on probably what he felt he had, and especially coming out, walking the first 3 guys. It's never a sign of a good outing, but he goes 6 innings, 1 run. It's pretty amazing.
He's been pretty critical of himself this year, but he's been able to do this pretty frequently without his best stuff. What do you make of the fact that he has done this now for much of the season? There haven't been many starts where he's looked like dominant Michael King, but he still has a 3.24 and has been one of your most important players. Yeah,
very competitive person. It's a talent to be able to do that, to not have your best stuff and still, give your team a chance to win. Eventually, hopefully he gets on a roll like we've seen Michael do, but, in the end, the results are pretty darn good. He knows that if he keeps pitching like that, sooner or later, things may not fall his way. But he knows he's going to keep working and continue to be sharp, and eventually, the work that he's been doing is going to translate to the game.
Did you see anything from your offense in the 9th that wasn't there in the 8th, or is that just or in the first 8, or is that just kind of the way baseball goes?
Yeah, kind of the way baseball goes, a little bit. I think they're not, that guy finished the game against us on, the first game of the series on Monday. So we'd seen him before. He kind of went through our lineup over, one time through. So we'd seen him. He's not one of their main guys that closed out games for him. He kind of closed that game out on Monday because they didn't have anybody left. But we battled, and the goal when you get in a game like that where you're down 6 runs in the 9th, figure out a way to get their closer in the game, see if you can waste some of his bullets to hopefully win the next game. And we were able to do that, came up 1 run shy.
Aside from that inning, what do you make of the up and down nature of the offense recently?
Yeah, I think it's hitting. That's what hitting is in baseball. It's not consistent. What's consistent is pitching and defense. And especially our bullpen has been very consistent throughout the entire year, and that's how we've won a lot of games. Tonight, the 8th inning just got away from us.
That was Padres manager Craig Stammen following this 7-6 loss tonight in Atlanta. Sam Levitt back with you on our postgame coverage brought to you by Jamul Casino Resort. The players' plays, no doubt about it. Padres offense has been really inconsistent on this road trip in particular to begin the second half. I mean, let's go through it game by game. It's literally been like one game good, one game not good. And again, let's go through it here. Friday in Kansas City, 6 runs on 8 hits. Lost the game 7-6, but hey, 6 runs, you'll take that. And well, I should mention offense was actually pretty quiet in that game for most of it. 4 of the runs came in the 9th and the 10th, but okay, 6 runs on 8 hits. Then you had Saturday where the Padres got a single run on a Tatis home run, and that was it. Then you had Sunday, 19 runs on 19 hits. Okay, back in the good category. Then you had Monday, 2 runs on 7 hits. That wasn't so good. Then you had yesterday. It was great. 8 runs on 13 hits. And then here today, you'll see 6 runs on 8 hits in the box score on the final line score. But they had 1 run in the first 8 innings, and they had 1 run on 4 hits. So don't get fooled. Was not a great offensive night. Yes, the 9th inning against Medeiros, who Craig alluded to it. They just saw on Monday, had to go through the lineup. They got to him, but aside from that, I mean, yeah, it felt like they were primed to do more against Perez. Couldn't get to him. Now, in fairness, it felt all night like the Braves were primed to do way more against Michael King, and they couldn't do it either. That was the early story of the game. I do want to touch on King just to take it in a different direction for a second, because I thought it was a good point. I think it was AJ Casvell who asked the question there to Craig, Padres beat writer for MLB.com. It is sort of amazing. Michael King has a 3.24 ERA. Does it feel like Michael King has been on his A game for the most part this season? I don't think so. I think he'd say that. I mean, it feels like there have been very few games where he has been on his A game, Michael King. And even with that, the guy's got a 3.24 ERA. I do think it speaks to how talented Michael is and what a competitor he is, that he just kind of figures out how to gut through outings. I mean, even on these days where he doesn't have his best stuff, it does feel like he finds a way to keep you in the game. He finds a way to gut his way through 5-6 innings and, does the best he can. I just, again, it just doesn't match up with, I think, the season it feels like he's had. And quite frankly, I know Michael, I think, well enough at this point to say that he'd probably say around the same thing, where he's like, yeah, like, I haven't been at my best. But meanwhile, I mean, the guy's hovering around a 3.25 ERA. So it does say, I think, something about Michael King's competitiveness and just his pure stuff and the talent level. Like first inning here tonight, thought was a great example of the great stuff that Michael has, because he starts the game. He can't throw a strike. He walks the first 3 batters of the game. The Harris ground out scores a run. And then Michael figures it out. He lets his stuff play, strikes out Riley, strikes out Yastrzemski. And at that point, it was a big deal. He got through that inning with just the 1 run given up. It was a really big deal at that point. And quite frankly, even as you got into the middle to later innings, it was a big deal because it was still only a 1-0 game. And you just felt like the Braves had so many opportunities against them. They couldn't find ways to cash in. But look, all in all, no matter how you slice it here tonight, not enough. Padres lose 7-6. When we come back, we'll talk more about this one. We have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard coming up later as well. We'll update you on the National League wildcard standings, get you ready for the series finale in Atlanta tomorrow. Again, the final today, Atlanta 7, San Diego 6. Our post-game coverage continues after this.
Sid's Carpet Barn is San Diego.
Jamul Casino Resort Padres postgame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network on this Wednesday evening. Final score, Braves 7 and the Padres 6 as the Padres lose the third game of this 4-game series in Atlanta. Padres will aim for a series split of this 4-game set tomorrow. We'll talk more about that game coming up in just a little bit. I will tell you, it is a very early start time tomorrow, 9:15 a.m. on the West Coast. Our pregame coverage will begin at 8:15 in the morning tomorrow. So talk about a little Padres and pancakes for you on a Thursday morning. We'll talk more about that game in a little bit. Let's tell you about tonight's relief pitcher of the game.
Which pitcher entered the game and slammed the door shut? This is today's relief pitcher of the game, brought to you by San Diego criminal defense attorney David P. Shapiro. We help good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime. Learn more at davidpshapirolaw.com.
I'll tell you what, most of the relievers that appeared in this game sort of had some issues, certainly Peralta and Vasquez for the Padres in the 8th inning. You did have a Dodd throw a scoreless 5th inning for Atlanta. You had Fuentes give up the game-tying home run to Merrill in the 7th. You did have Lee throw a scoreless 8th inning for Atlanta. Then you had Medeiros give up 4 runs. You had Iglesias give up a home run. So you're not going to pick those guys, even though Iglesias got the save. I'll give it to Adrian Morejon today because Morejon came in 7th inning, did get in trouble, gave up a single, another single. Ultimately had to get a big strike out of Austin Riley to strand the go-ahead run 90 feet away. But you know what? He did it, and it kept the game tied at 1. So for that reason, Adrian Morejon, ultimately a scoreless 7th inning, our relief pitcher of the game. Let's tell you about tonight's heart of the order.
Let's take the pulse of the Padres and check in on the heart of the order, presented by Palomar Health Medical Group.
Heart of the order here tonight, Machado, France, and Merrill. Manny an 0 for 4 today with a couple of Ks and a walk. Ty France an 0 for 5. Snaps a 9-game hitting streak. He struck out twice. Jackson Merrill, only guy out of the heart of the order today with hits. He had a single in the 4th, and he had the game-tying home run in the 7th inning. That was certainly very good to see. For Jackson, hit it a long way, an estimated 449 feet to straightaway center. Into the fountains in straightaway center. Also his second best exit velo on a home run this season at 109 miles per hour off the bat. Merrill now has 4 home runs in his last 4 games. So good stuff from Jackson, productive today, and that's a look at the Padres' heart of the order. Good to see Jackson continue to swing the bat well, but unfortunately, Manny, who had been swinging it well, 0 for 4, and Ty France, who had been red hot, 0 for 5. When we return, a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. We'll update you on the wild card standings, get you ready for tomorrow's series finale in Atlanta. Again, the final score today, Braves 7 and the Padres 6 on the Padres Radio Network.
KWFN.
Back here inside our Padres Radio Network studios, final score today, Braves 7 and the Padres 6. Sam Levitt with you on our Jamul Casino Resort Padres postgame show. Hey player, the rooftop pool's open. Day passes are available and the spa is calling your name. Jamul Casino Resort, the players' place. Padres fall 7-6 in Atlanta. We'll preview the final game of this series coming up in just a little bit, bright and early tomorrow on the West Coast especially. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Wednesday.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
Well, today was a very, very rare day in Major League Baseball for two reasons. The first reason is we had a season high. I want to make sure I'm right about this. Hold on a second. Let me pull up my notes here. Make sure I'm right about what I'm about to say. Yeah, today we had a season high 17 games on the schedule across the majors. But you know what else makes today rare? Here at 8 p.m., 7:59 right now to be exact, but let's say for all intents and purposes, 8 p.m. Pacific time, every game has gone final. Not one game going on right now. At 8 p.m. Pacific time, everything final. So, with all that in mind, let's go through what happened today across the major leagues. Let's start with the two doubleheaders. Game one in New York between the Pirates and Yankees. Pirates won game one of that doubleheader 5-3, the final in 10 innings. Game two of that doubleheader, Yankees won it 2-0 in the Bronx. Max Fried made his return on the mound in that game for the Yankees. Red Sox and Orioles had a doubleheader today at Fenway. Red Sox, in the first game of that doubleheader, won their 15th consecutive game. In the first game of that doubleheader, 15 in a row, they won it 6-3. However, they then lost game two of the doubleheader at Fenway by a final score of where is it? Where's the score? There it is, 5-1 at Fenway. So in a single day, the Red Sox set a new franchise record for consecutive wins. They hit 15 in a row. They beat the record set by Ted Williams and the 1946 Red Sox, 15 in a row, but they then had the win streak snapped in game two of the doubleheader. Other scores today from around the major leagues. Brewers beat the Mets 4-3 in Milwaukee. Royals beat the Giants 5-4 in Kansas City. In that game in Kansas City, Salvador Perez hit his career 317th home run. That ties George Brett for the most all-time home runs in Royals franchise history. So congratulations to Salvador Perez as the Royals won that game 5-4. Nationals beat the Rockies 8-0 in Colorado. Diamondbacks beat up on the A's 15-5 in Arizona. Reds beat the Mariners 5-3 in Seattle. Cardinals beat the Angels 1-0 in Anaheim. J.J. Weatherholt solo home run in that game, the lone run scored for St. Louis. Dodgers beat the Phillies 9-5 in Philadelphia. Twins beat the Guardians 10-6 in Cleveland. The Rays beat the Blue Jays 4-2 in Toronto. The Tigers beat the Cubs 5-1 in Chicago. White Sox beat the Rangers 4-2 in Arlington. And finally, Astros beat the Marlins 5-2 in Houston. By the way, for Miami, that is their 9th consecutive loss. 9 in a row. For the Marlins, remember, Padres will play the Marlins Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They've now lost 9 in a row, and they've now fallen to just one game above 500 at 52-51. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Wednesday. Final score again in Atlanta tonight, Braves 7 and the Padres 6. Let's hear tonight's play of the game.
One bounce, one hit, one pitch can be the difference between victory and defeat. What was the most important play in today's game? This is today's play of the game. Presented by Bill Howe Plumbing, Heating and Air, Restoration and Flood. We know how.
Smith swings, hits it over the head of Ty France on the bounce up the right field line. Olsen trots home from third. Riley wheels around to third. Another RBI single. This time it's Dom Smith in the pinch. And now 7-1 Atlanta in the eighth.
Well, that was our play of the game here tonight. Yes, the RBI single by Dominic Smith, the pinch hitter in the eighth inning, to make it 7-1. And you might be saying to yourself, well, what? That's your play of the game? An RBI single, eighth inning that made it 7-1? Well, yeah. You want to know why? That's because that ended up being the game-deciding run, because the Padres scored 5 runs in the top of the ninth inning to make it 7-6. So that Smith RBI single, unfortunately, ended up being the game-deciding, game-winning run tonight for Atlanta. Hey, we talked about it earlier. That inning totally unraveled on Wandy Peralta and Randy Vasquez. Had it not unraveled as much as it did, might have a different result here tonight. But again, that 7th run for Atlanta ended up making all the difference in the way it ultimately played out. So unfortunately, that was tonight's play of the game, the pinch hit RBI single by Dominic Smith in the bottom half of the eighth inning to make it a 7-1 game. Braves go on to win it by a final score of 7-6. To update you on the wild card standings at the end of tonight. And this is, I think, a good example tonight, a good example of why these games are so very important for the Padres and why this time of year leading up to the trade deadline is so very important. The Padres lost tonight, and they didn't get a lot of help on the scoreboard. Diamondbacks won. Cardinals won. Pirates split a doubleheader. Marlins lost. The Nationals, what did they do? What did I say they did? The Nationals, they won. So you had Cardinals, D-backs, Pirates split a doubleheader, and the Nationals won. So everybody picked up at least one win today except for Miami. And in the process, the Diamondbacks now hold the final wild card spot, and the Padres are 3 out. And it's not so much that they're 3 out, but it's the fact that they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They've got 5 teams between them and that final wild card spot. And again, it just, I think, hammers the point that Padres can't afford to fall much farther behind, because you've got ground to make up and teams that are in front of you and between you and a playoff spot. So, you know, Padres have been very, very fortunate on this road trip. Entering today, they were 2-3 on the trip, and they had actually picked up a game and a half in the standings since the All-Star break. Well, today they lost a full game. So just magnifies why this time of year and this road trip in particular is so important from a Padres standpoint. All right, another important game for the Padres tomorrow. First pitch tomorrow in Atlanta in the series finale at 12:15 p.m. or 12:15 Eastern, 9:15 a.m. Pacific time. First pitch tomorrow. Our pregame coverage will begin bright and early. We've got Padres and pancakes for you at 8:15 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow. So we will very much cut into your Ben and Woods time tomorrow. I apologize to you tier ones out there, but 8:15 a.m. tomorrow with the pregame coverage. Our ball game will begin at 9:15 a.m. Pitching matchup tomorrow: on the mound for the Padres, right-hander Griffin Canning, and on the mound for the Braves, very, very talented left-hander Chris Sale will take the hill. As always, if you missed any portion of our post-game coverage, you can go back and listen to all of it on the Inside San Diego Baseball podcast, available on the free Odyssey app or wherever you find your podcasts. You can also go back on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube channel and watch any portion of our post-game coverage there as well. Look at the final totals here tonight for Atlanta: 7 runs, 14 hits, no errors. They left on 12. For the Padres, 6 runs, 8 hits, no errors. They left on 7. Winning pitcher tonight, Dylan Lee, who improves to 5-0. Losing pitcher, Wandy Peralta, who drops to 1-2. And the save goes to Raisel Iglesias, who picks up his 20th save of the season. Time of game here tonight, 2 hours and 49 minutes. And the crowd at Truist Park in Atlanta, Georgia, 33,766. Once again, first pitch tomorrow, 9:15 a.m. on the West Coast. Our pregame coverage will begin at 8:15. Until then, for our great studio coordinator, Jeff Hamby, I'm Sam Levitt saying so long and good night from inside our Padres Radio Network studios. Again, the final score here tonight, the Atlanta Braves 7 and the San Diego Padres 6. We'll talk to you bright and early tomorrow morning on the Padres Radio Network. Have a nice night, rest of your night, everybody.